Hey everyone, welcome back to my shop, although we're not in my shop. I'm on my sawmill. I gave it a little bit of a workout last week, and I thought maybe I'd cover a little bit about my sawmill and maybe the operation of it. And full disclosure, this is the only sawmill I have ever operated, so I'm not all that knowledgeable about the other ones out there. This is a Cook's MP32 sawmill. We bought it about 14 years ago when we first moved up to Tennessee. I'm not sure why it's called an MP32. I suspect that's because you could probably cut a 32-inch log, although the distance between these two bearings is 27 inches. But if you had a 32-inch log that was pretty straight, by the time you squared it up, you'd have no problem passing these two bearings right by it. You can see by the wheels here on the sawmill, it's mobile, which means I get to make a mess in other people's yards rather than my own, because it does put out a lot of sawdust. This is a horizontal bandsaw mounted on a carriage. When I get to someone's property, I lower all these legs to help stabilize the sawmill so all the weight of the logs doesn't go onto the wheels and the axles. For the most part, this sawmill is quite manual, except we did splurge and we got the motor that raises and lowers the head. I'm very glad we did that because that really saves time and a lot of manual work. This sawmill can do a 16-foot log. I've never actually cut a 16-foot log. The reason why is that you have to be able to handle a 16-foot log after you cut it. And when you're stacking and drying, it's just much easier for me to cut them to 10 foot. That's a much more manageable length. The best accessory you can have for a sawmill is a skid loader and something with a grapple on it, which can drop the logs, not drop, but set the logs on top of the sawmill. This does come with a couple of ramps, and you can roll the log up the ramps with a couple of cant hooks. That's how we originally started using it, but it's pretty labor intensive. It really slows down the process. Once the logs are on top of the sawmill and against the squaring jigs, there's a couple of clamps here that just hold them firmly in place. We make our first cut across the top of the log, and then we rotate it so that that first cut is against the squaring jigs. And then we make our second cut, and that gives us a nice 90-degree angle. Once you have that nice square edge on your log, you can rotate it, have it sit on the bed here, and just rest against these little lips here on it. And you can lower your squaring jigs. You don't need them anymore. We make our third cut to get rid of the bark, then rotate it the last time, and then you can either cut it to a dimension that you want or just start going through the log, cutting the varying widths. Once the log's all squared up, I can raise and lower the head according to a scale that is right there at the operating station. It's pretty simple. There's just a scale and a little pin sticking out, and that way you can be very consistent with what you're cutting. Most of the time I cut on the quarter scale, so I'm doing 4/4 or 6/4 or 8/4. If I'm doing live edge slabs, I always do 8/4. When you find yourself really pushing to get through a log, then it's time to change the blade. The blades are fairly cheap. They're between $20 and $30 each, and it costs about $8 to sharpen them. And if I'm sawing for a full day, I'll make 3 or 4 blade changes. The first log, I wasn't sure what it is, but now that I'm looking at it, it looks to be hickory. I'm terrible for looking at bark and being able to tell what the wood is. I kind of have to look at the wood once it's been sawed or sawn. Bert, stay away from the tripod. That's not really that helpful either. What was really nice, a nice surprise, is there's some chestnut oak. It's got to be one of my favorites. The biggest log of the day was the poplar. Poplar's not really all that nice, but if you're going to make a piece of furniture and you're going to paint it, then poplar is for you. There was a couple pieces there that were just handy for making mantles, so I always cut a couple of mantles for a friend of mine. He'll be here shortly to help me unload them. In the videos you see we do quite a bit of brushing to get rid of the sawdust. You don't want sawdust on the wood when it's trying to dry. It just sits there and holds moisture. Brush it then, I'll brush it now when I'm starting to stack it. It's always preferable to paint the ends of the logs before you cut them, but because these were longer than the 10 feet that I can really manage, it just wasn't convenient. So I will stack them, sticker them, and then I'll paint the ends. I wish you guys could help me stack. Oh, Get. I don't need you knocking that over. If you have any questions, please list them below in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them. And as always, thank you for watching.